Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Victoria Evans. I'm a science-based intuitive eating specialist helping you stop food fear, food guilt, and self-sabotage so you can eat effortlessly and feel amazing. So in this video, we're going to be talking all about calorie counting in recovery. Is it something you should do? Is it bad? Is it good? We're going to be going through some of the pros, some of the cons, when I think you should be calorie counting and when I think you should not be calorie counting. And I'm saying this as someone who myself personally had to really make those decisions when I was recovering from bulimia and binge eating and anorexia and deciding whether or not this made sense for me, where I was at, and also, right, to consider your eating disorder brain. Is it coming at it from I'm trying to heal and get better, so I'm making sure I'm getting enough food into my body calories, or is it coming from a restrictive and controlling and trying to not get any weight and really just try to scrape by, just do the bare minimum in recovery to make steps forward, right? So we have to also be super honest with ourselves and check in, where is this kind of calorie counting in recovery coming into play? Because how we're approaching calorie counting in recovery, whether we're doing it or not, is going to ultimately decide how our results are going to be in our own recovery. So with that said, before I get into things, I wanted to please ask you to subscribe as well as like. It really does mean the world to me to know that you're watching these videos and that you're here and that you're finding this information useful, as well as, I'm here making these videos for you. So I invite you to drop a comment below what type of video you'd like me to, create next, so that I can make sure that this channel is curated and useful for you specifically. With that said, all right, my take on if you should be calorie counting in recovery. So hot take, I would say in general, no, but it depends. So I will say, if you are someone who is working with a recovery team, if you have specialists that you are working with, I would say listen to them, right? I'm speaking to you through a computer. I don't know you specifically. I don't know your individual situation. So I can't, advise on exactly what you are needing. So listen to everything I'm saying with a grain of salt, but listen to my explanation. And I think you can take that back, think about it, right? But with that said, if you are working with a specific team to help you get to where you need to go in your recovery, listen to them, right? Because I don't know your specific situation. So with that said, I would say in general, no, calorie counting is not a good idea in recovery, but it depends, right? So for example, if you are someone who is struggling with binge eating or maybe bulimia, that is a binge and purge subtype, right? So for example, I know for myself, I was not eating enough food throughout the day, right? And then this will cause me to be binge eating at night, whether I was just binge eating at the time or binge eating and then purging. So some situations when we are not actually counting calories throughout the day, right? And we're just, I'm not going to have any breakfast. I'm just going to have coffee. And then for lunch, I'm going to have like a salad with like a tiny bit of maybe a little bit of protein. And then for afternoon snack, and I'm describing exactly what I used to eat. I'm going to have an apple. And then dinner, I'm going to have this like a very small portion of meat and veggies and whatever. And then be so confused why I found myself binge eating in the evenings and then sometimes purging after that as a result. And I thought, what is wrong with me? I can't believe I don't have enough willpower, but the reality of the situation was I was eating far below what my body needed throughout the day. So I had this compensation effect in the evening to try to make up for that lack of calories. So if you are someone who is currently not calorie counting, but you are someone who's struggling with binge eating or bulimia, it might be interesting, maybe just once or twice, and I'm not necessarily even writing that down throughout the day, but just taking a pen, piece of paper, looking up and then writing down what are some of those calories to see, am I actually getting enough food throughout the day, right? Because a lot of the time we think it's a willpower problem, we think there's something wrong with us, when in reality, it's that our body is not getting enough energy for survival. And binge eating is your body's biologically built-in survival response to make sure you stay alive. That's your body's number one goal, is survival. And if you are not meeting the energy requirements, aka calories, in order to stay alive, you don't even have a choice. Your body is going to be sending you into that binge eating response to get your energy levels back up for survival. So if you're someone who is finding yourself binge eating and binging and purging in the evening, and you're thinking to yourself, why am I doing this? It could be that because you're not eating enough throughout the day, and that is causing that response. So it might be worth, going through, taking a quick check at how much energy, aka calories, are you actually eating throughout the day, right? And I would suggest, if you can, front loading it a little bit more, right? So instead of, if we're binging and purging in the evenings or just binging in the evenings and all our calories are backloaded to the end of the day, consider trying to front load them a little bit to try to meet those energy requirements, right? So instead of having no breakfast or having a very small breakfast or a not super nutrient dense, delicious breakfast, right? Maybe, considering that you want to have a bigger breakfast. So maybe you're having now eggs and some bread, some avocado and toast, and maybe you're having some coffee and a yogurt and, maybe other things and fruit and whatever, granola. But really maybe consider front loading that first part of the day to make sure we're getting that energy into our body so it doesn't get to the end of the day and our body's like, what the heck? I have no energy. I have no calories right in my body. Let me send her into a binge, or him or her, however you want to identify, into a binge in order to get their energy levels back up, right? So something I would maybe consider front loading your day instead of now maybe, which is back loading your day. Now, if you are, going to go through and make some notes about how many calories you are eating throughout the day, note that this varies so much, right? How much you're eating, how much you're burning, everything. It is based on things like height, metabolism, how much you're moving, your menstrual cycle, where you are in your cycle, stress levels, hormones, how much you've slept, how long your intestines are, which is like crazy. But if you have longer intestines, basically your body has more time to absorb that food as it's going through your body. So things like that are completely beyond your control are influencing the number of calories you are able to, digest, and the number of calories you're able to use and convert into energy, the number of calories that you require. It's varying so much. Now, with that said, I am not a dietitian, so I'm not able to look at you and say, okay, you should be eating this much. That said as well, make sure you're going to dietitians that are making sure that they are serving you and your goals and your needs in terms of making sure your body is healthy and nourished, and not just ones that are restrictive and giving you these diets that are basically making you not feel very good because they're focused around weight changes. So to circle that back, right, I don't like calorie counting in recovery from, for example, bulimia or binge eating. But if you're finding that you are binging every single night, or you're binging and purging every single night or quite often, it could be that you're not getting enough energy throughout the day. So maybe either you're doing a quick kind of scan to see how much energy, how much calories am I eating throughout the day, or maybe you're considering front loading and really kind of crowding out your meals throughout the day so that we're not having that kind of end of day backloading of all our calories. So maybe adding a couple more things to your lunch, maybe a couple more snacks. And, for example, one of my tips for bulimia recovery is myself, someone who struggled for over 10 years with bulimia, right, is to consider telling yourself or setting an alarm for every 2.5 hours to be eating some food, right? There's often this massive fear from our body that we're not even necessarily aware of, but we have this kind of building anxiety of scarcity, not having enough access to food. So we're setting a timer, for example, on our phone or an alarm for every 2.5 hours to be eating something. Could be a small snack, could be a full meal, right? But really training our brain food is coming. We don't get into that kind of anxiety state where our body feels like it needs to take action, kind of take over and send us into that kind of Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, eat everything to kind of make up for the lack of calories I had, available to me throughout the day. So with that said, that can also work if you're someone who's struggling with binge eating and you're finding you're restricting throughout the day. Every 2.5 hours, maybe we're having a little snack or eating a little bit of something to make sure that our body knows food is coming, to break out of that scarcity mindset, move towards the abundance mindset, which your brain loves. Our body really likes when it knows there's food availability, can relax because it knows that it is safe. If we're constantly telling ourselves that I can't have this, I'm making this off limits, I'm so naughty, I'm so bad, I'm compensating because I binged last night. Scarcity. Our brain hates that. It's going to compensate, right? Not getting enough calories throughout the day, scarcity. So with that said, right, we want to make sure that our body knows that food is coming, food is available. So front loading our day, right, making sure we're eating enough calories, crowding out our meals to add in more things, working on our language to lean into abundance and permission and allowance, and removing all of that restriction type of vocabulary and actions so that we don't create that binge eating effect that is basically having that kind of compensation effect because of the restriction that we've had. Now, with that said, if you are someone who's maybe in anorexia recovery, for example, you might be attempting to hit a certain calorie amount per day based off of what your recovery team has suggested for you, right? And so this I found personally, when I was recovering from anorexia, could become quite obsessive. And again, it's not meaning that for everyone. Some people having a goal to work towards works super well, but I found for myself personally that not so much. So what I did find worked, and I find sometimes works with clients, is instead of counting every single calorie and, becoming a little bit more obsessive about that, if you have that meal plan that you're trying to use from your recovery team, from your dietitians, from them, right? Instead of tracking the calories, tracking the amount. So instead of, thinking about what is the calories in these 2 pieces of bread, rather it's just 2 pieces of bread, right? Instead of this many calories I have to be hitting, maybe it's a slice of cheese, right? So instead of going from a numbers, doing from a kind of what is the actual amount of that food. So we're doing maybe once an idea of what the calories are, creating a couple different kind of meal variations to hit that calorie amount that we're trying to get. So I'm not going to say a number, but like whatever that number is, right? And going through and creating these kind of mock-up meal plans that are just basically going off of the quantity of it is that food that you're eating. Maybe it's the yogurt, maybe it's the candy, whatever the thing is, right? To hit that goal and hit that amount. But then, in our day-to-day, we're not finding ourselves calorie counting and weighing and getting kind of caught up in that because sometimes that can make things feel worse and more scary. Now, I would say if you're going to take that technique, every now and then, go back and, make sure that your amount of foods. So, if you're doing the yogurt, make sure that you're actually putting enough yogurt into the bowl to hit whatever that amount is for that number of calories required. Because sometimes you can find yourself slipping back and putting a little bit less on the plate, eating a little bit less, not even necessarily consciously or sometimes consciously. We're doing that because we are, afraid of weight change. So with that said, it can be super useful to be using calories in anorexia recovery in order to count to make sure you're eating the right amount. Sometimes if you're becoming too obsessive, it can help instead to kind of focus on the quantity of, this one thing of yogurt or this thing of cheese, like 1 slice of cheese and 2 things of bread or, whatever that thing is, and creating some meal plans in that way. Now with that, if you're anything like me, I had remembered the exact amount of calories in every single type of food I was eating. I was super obsessive. And so just know that that's going to go away over time. If you're someone who, I can tell you, say off the top of your head, the number of calories in the apple and the bread and the egg and everything. I used to be the exact same way. And I was always doing mental calculations, which was exhausting. But no, over time, your brain is going to kind of fill in with more exciting and empowering and, living types of information and, memories. And that old stuff is going to fade away because it's no longer providing a sense of importance and significance in your life. So I would say, with that said, that we shouldn't be counting calories in recovery, but of course it depends on certain situations, right? I would suggest to you, if you can, depending on your situation, right, delete your apps. So if you're someone who is struggling with binge eating and you're getting enough food throughout the day, or now you're aware and you're kind of crowding things out, delete the apps, put away the food scales, right? Really focusing on nourishing your body, creating these delicious, filling meals that make you feel good, because your body knows how much it needs. Your body knows what it wants. But sometimes when you're struggling with eating disorders, you can really mess up those hunger and those fullness and our metabolism and everything. So it can sometimes be useful to be using calories initially to get a better gauge of how much our body is needing until we can start to transition back to what our body innately knows, but we've lost touch with along the way when we were struggling with our eating disorder. So that is my video on should you calorie count in recovery. I know it's quite nuanced. I know it can, be quite specific to your situation. If you want some support, if you have any questions on that, either drop them below into a comment or I invite you to book a call with me and I'll be happy to talk through it with you and provide any kind of suggestions or support that I can, because I know it can be tough. I know it can be tough if you're on your own, you don't have any support and you're not sure what situation is right for you. But I'm happy to support you and help you in any way that I can. And I'm dropping a new video every single week, so definitely be sure to hit the subscribe button and the like button. And like I said, comment below what you'd like to see next. Until next week, have a good, amazing rest of your day. Bye.